Alright, man, peace. So I recently did a video pertaining to Mr. Jimmy Butler, the star guard slash small forward of the Minnesota Timberwolves, and my belief, my assertion, that it is a high possibility that he's going to leave Minnesota at the end of next season and sign with the New York Knicks so that he can team up with his good friend Kyrie Irving. Well, now the latest report is that the Minnesota Timberwolves may consider moving Jimmy Butler in the middle of the season to the LA Lakers, or that he may even consider, when I say he, I mean Jimmy Butler, he may consider at the end of this up-and-coming season leaving the Minnesota Timberwolves to sign with the LA Lakers. Do I believe that he's going to do that? No, I don't, because I don't think that any of the star players in the NBA want to play with LeBron James, but we'll see. You never know. So anyway, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
But guys, we got to kick things off with a new show that may rival As the King's Turn.
I don't think that's true.
What do you mean? The Timberwolves, they've been drama-filled this summer, so I'm thinking we should get that graphic for As the...
Well, the Timberwolves have not been drama-filled this summer. They've been drama-filled for the entire season. But if you don't have a three-dimensional level of thought, you didn't see it. I've been making videos about the Timberwolves for this entire season because I could see, based on how Tom Thibodeau was speaking to Karl Anthony Towns, that he had no respect for Karl Anthony Towns. And eventually, Karl Anthony Towns was going to get tired of it. I could also tell that Tom Thibodeau was going to use his lapdog, Jimmy Butler, no disrespect, but that's what he is, his lapdog, Jimmy Butler, to attack Karl Anthony Towns by proxy. Tom Thibodeau, in my view, is a prime example of an assistant coach who's so talented that he gets mistaken for being a good head coach. He's not a good head coach. He never was. He runs all of his players into the ground, and I believe that he's only a plan A coach. He doesn't truly know how to make adjustments. It frustrates his team, especially the younger members of his team who want to learn and they feel like they're not learning. I never thought that Tom Thibodeau was the right coach for that team. I think that you have to bring in a young, exuberant head coach, someone like a Brad Stevens or someone along that line, a Quinn Snyder, who can teach the young players on the team as opposed to just yell and scream all the time. And that's the reason why they brought in Jimmy Butler, because he's a player who was very comfortable with Thibodeau's system while playing in Chicago. Why is that? Because Jimmy Butler was desperate. He came from nothing. He was never expected to be a great player, and he built himself into a great player. He actually loved the hard coaching of Tom Thibodeau. So he, in combination with Tom Thibodeau, have caused a lot of confusion within that Minnesota Timberwolves locker room. And when I say confusion, I don't necessarily mean in a bad way. I think that they're trying to utilize the biblical credo of iron sharpens iron. They're trying to toughen up Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins because they're both soft. That's very obvious. Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns are softer than toilet tissue. Anyone who watches them play can see that. And that is why Jimmy Butler is frustrated. That's why he wants to leave. And Tom Thibodeau is not going to allow Jimmy Butler to leave without a fight. I promise you that, because Tom Thibodeau understands that if Jimmy Butler leaves, it's not going to be long before he's asked to leave. Because what else is he going to do? I believe that Karl Anthony Towns is out on Tom Thibodeau. And right now, Minnesota wants to re-sign Karl Anthony Towns to a maximum extension. I think it's taking so long for Karl Anthony to re-sign because he does not want Tom Thibodeau to be coach. So he may wait to see exactly what goes on with Jimmy Butler and Tom Thibodeau. So it really is a shit show right now in Minnesota, and something's got to give.
As the Tibbs turn,
graphic will have Tibbs grunting.
Exactly. Especially
the three grunt story.
right, and this may be it. This Bleacher Report reported Friday that Jimmy Butler's open to the idea of moving on from the Timberwolves to play alongside LeBron in Los Angeles.
Is that really what Jimmy Butler stated? Or is there a plant in the media put forth by Magic Johnson, or maybe even LeBron's team, to try to get Jimmy Butler to think about teaming up with LeBron James? Because LeBron and his team see that the waters are getting kind of dry. They're getting very thin in regards to the players that want to team up with him. Because Kevin Durant loves to beat up on LeBron. Kawhi Leonard, I don't think, would really mix well with LeBron personality-wise. And Paul George has already told LeBron where he can go. So LeBron is getting kind of desperate right now.
Keep in mind, Jimmy turned down a $100 million contract extension this summer, which paves the way for him to hit the open market after this upcoming season. Grunt. Okay, Brian.
That's his favorite way to answer your question.
Oh, yeah. And some letters that we can't repeat right now, but yes.
Let's look at this from the Lakers angle first. So how appealing should the Lakers be for Jimmy?
Well, look, I don't know how. I don't have sources that are saying the same things the report did, but what?
Of course, you don't have any sources saying the same thing that the report did, Brian Windhorst, because it's a fake report. That's fake news that has been planted in the media, either by Magic Johnson or a member of LeBron James' team, to try to get Jimmy Butler to consider playing with the Lakers alongside LeBron James, or to try to entice the Minnesota Timberwolves to trade Jimmy Butler to the LA Lakers, because I think that the top brass within the LA Lakers are starting to anticipate that this season is going to be a circus. And if they're approaching late January and their record is 3 games under 500 or right around 500, and LeBron is starting to have another one of his meltdowns, they're going to have to pull the trigger on something, anything. And why not plant a seed right now that hopefully will start to bear fruit sometime around the trading deadline? That's what I think this so-called report is all about. Because I don't think that Jimmy Butler's thinking about playing with LeBron. I know that he does like it out there in LA. Many of the top NBA players do, because they go out there, they train, they work out, they try to make connections with a lot of the higher ups in Hollywood. They bang a lot of these actresses and these little thotties in the music industry. So they all hang out in Hollywood. They all hang out in LA. That does not mean that they necessarily want to play there.
Whether or not Jimmy exactly feels that way, other teams in the league are going to question what Jimmy Butler's intention is to stay with the Timberwolves long term. Now, he turned out his contract extension this summer because it doesn't behoove him to sign now. He can make more money by waiting for a year. It's not necessarily a referendum on the Wolves.
Well, let's be clear, Brian Windhorst. The reason why you said it's not necessarily a referendum on the Wolves is because you know that you have to lay that out there on the table as a possibility. But you know that the probability, based off of everything that you know, and I mean, shit, if I can glean certain things just by watching how people interact on the basketball court, or how Jimmy Butler or Karl Anthony Towns are interacting with their coach, I can only imagine all the things that you've heard, Brian Windhorst, because you're actually one of the few reporters in the NBA media that I take seriously when you say something. We all know that Jimmy Butler's not going to re-sign with the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's out on them. Really, the main reason why he allowed himself to be traded there in the first place was because he liked Tom Thibodeau, and sometimes you want to revisit the past just to make sure that you know why it's time for you to move forward.
That said, this last year didn't exactly go perfectly. And in my mind, it's not just about the contract. Nick, if this season doesn't get off to a good start for the Wolves, where the West is tougher than it's ever been, I think Jimmy Butler will start to pop up in trade rumors.
There's no doubt about it. Why wouldn't he?
Because the Wolves have already got to be concerned about keeping him long term. So this...
Beyond that, once again, the LA Lakers are scared to death that after this season, the offseason is going to come and they're not going to be able to land a major free agent, and they cannot risk allowing Jimmy Butler to sign with the New York Knicks because they're hearing a lot of things. I have no doubt about it. And me just evaluating some of the basic components that I'm allowed to see, I can see that Jimmy Butler, if he had his way, is going to sign with Kyrie in New York. So the Lakers know we can't lose out on this one. We already lost out on Paul George. We're probably not going to get Durant. This season is going to be a shit show. It's going to be like the Expendables or the Suicide Squad in LA. Just a bunch of strange people coming together trying to supposedly accomplish a goal, a mission. It's not going to work. It's going to have a high amount of entertainment value. But these are the LA Lakers, not the LA Clippers. They're going to be expected to win. They'll have this season to just fuck around, but after this season, they're going to be expected to win. So look for the Lakers to try to pull off a trade for Jimmy Butler. Who they're going to give up, who knows? But they're going to have to give up some of their prospects. That's obvious because they have so many guys playing the same position on their team anyway. Between the 2, the 3, and the 4, they're like 2 or 3 deep at certain positions. They're going to have to give up certain guys if they're going to bring on Butler. But they are going to try to trade for him. I have little doubt about that.
Whether this story triggers it or not, we're going to see some tension that comes with Butler and the Wolves probably this fall.
Even more tension, because that tension was building throughout the last year. But guys, Jimmy to Los Angeles has been something that we've heard about for several years. I mean, dating back to when he was still with the Bulls, this was always the place that he enjoyed visiting. He's got a place out here. it makes a lot of sense on a lot of levels. But to what you were saying, do you think Tibbs, in all of his infinite Tibbs wisdom, can sit down in a room with Jimmy and say, are you really going to leave? And Jimmy's going to say, well, it's possible. I just don't know if Tom, knowing what's on the line this season, could.
Hey, yo, why Tom Thibodeau always look like he got to take a shit? Every time they flash to him, that man look like, call timeout. I got to take a shit. I'll be back.
And could pull the trigger on a deal, whether it was now or 3 or 4 months from now.
Yes, I think that the Wolves, as a franchise, are on a razor's edge because I think they could really go either way.
I agree, sir.
They are a team that was in 3rd place last year when Jimmy got hurt, and they can look in the mirror and say, hey, listen, we are an elite team. Well, we've seen.
No, sir, they could never say that. They could never say that they're elite. There are probably 2 or 3 elite teams in the entire NBA coming into next season. That being Golden State, the Rockets, and the Celtics. Everybody else is just fighting for some recognition.
We've seen the West get better. We've seen the power base increase with LeBron coming to the Lakers. They were the 8th seed last year. They can't have a backslide. They have any sort of backslide where you can stay.
Can't you say that this summer has been a little bit of a backslide, given just how outward their drama internally and the dislike between their 3 stars is?
That's what I mean. And if they don't get off to a good start, the pressure is really gonna ramp up.
Well, I don't believe that they're gonna have a good season. They just don't have the right ingredients to have a good season. Nobody seems to like the coach other than Butler. Karl Anthony Towns is mad as hell because he believes that he should be the alpha, even though he's not particularly aggressive on the basketball court. He does not demand the ball as much as he should for someone who's the most talented player on the team. He is the most naturally talented player on the team. But Butler is far hungrier than him and far tougher-minded than him. Thibodeau does not respect Karl Anthony Towns. Therefore, Karl Anthony Towns does not respect Thibodeau. And then on top of that, they're getting terrible point guard play from Jeff Teague. So who's going to settle that ship?
Is it repairable through the season? Or are we just...
I don't know. You were around them a lot last year.
It's not repairable. How are they going to repair a team as poorly built as their team is? They have no three-point shooting in a league where you have to have good three-point shooting to compete with the best teams. They don't know what they're doing in a half-court set. Their most talented player is soft. Their toughest-minded player tends to break down the course of the season. Jimmy Butler has a lot of injury problems. Their point guard does not know how to distribute. Their most talented wing player is a mute in Andrew Wiggins. So where really are they going?
I think ultimately they can be a successful team, and I think they had moments last year where they were really good. But Wiggins hasn't, matured to the level that they thought he would. Karl Towns and Jimmy Butler clearly don't seem to operate at the highest level around each other. It doesn't mean that can't change, but the Timberwolves, at the beginning of every year, we look for, like a team turmoil. Who do we have our eye on that potentially could have some issues? Minnesota is sort of sitting in that seat right now. Definitely that's what we're watching, and these reports like this don't help.
Well, this report says that he's eyeing the Lakers would like to play with LeBron, but
that's how you know it's fake. I mean, give me a fucking break. I guarantee you, Jimmy Butler don't know anything about that damn report, and he did not say I want to play with LeBron James.
Speaking of beef, you were around when Rondo and Jimmy were playing together. So if you really look at the Lakers, leadership-wise, Rondo can be considered the number 2 leader on that Lakers squad. So what would you think, how do you think Jimmy would mesh with this current Lakers squad?
With this squad, I think he'd be fine because for as much as he...
Let me say this. It'd be funny as hell if Rajon Rondo and LeBron James end up beefing over the course of this season. Can you imagine those 2 guys beefing? They'd be trying to compete to see who could remember more plays during the game.
As he and Rondo might have gone back and forth after his public comments and talking to Jimmy throughout that year, Cass, Jimmy respected Rondo because he put in the work. And that's why the younger guys on that Bulls team from a couple of years ago respected Rondo. So I think he'd be...
What he left out is that they didn't respect Dwayne Wade because Dwayne Wade wanted to ride a stationary bike during practice but tell guys what to do, and he wanted to be treated like he was Michael Jordan or somebody like that. And he was not Bulls royalty. He was Miami Heat royalty. You could pull that shit down there in Miami and get a lot of little young guys to worship you while you rode on your stationary bike and only practice 5 times a season. You can't go up to Chicago and do that. And Dwayne Wade did not understand that.
He'd be fine in the framework. My question is, having been around Jimmy as long as he has, and him loving to prove people wrong, at this point in his career, could he take a back seat? Could his ego take a back seat to anybody? And that would be a struggle for him at this point after being the face of both the Bulls and the Timberwolves over the last couple of years.
Well, that's part of the problem. Jimmy Butler was made the face of the Timberwolves, and he did not quite deserve to be. And that's the true conundrum that they're in. Their toughest-minded player, the person with the alpha male personality, is Jimmy Butler. But the player with the alpha male talent is Karl Anthony Towns, and he's soft as hell.
But whether it's LA or somewhere else, he's also got a really good relationship with Kyrie Irving.
It's exactly right. So is he picking LeBron over Kyrie?
Kyrie is a free agent.
He's not picking LeBron James over Kyrie because he's not picking LeBron at all. That report is fake as hell. Faker than a $3 bill.
These are all the...
By the way, Rondo's only got a one-year deal
Yes.
with the Lakers. We have no idea what the Lakers are going to look like in a year from now. But what it really comes down to, I think, is the eyes are going to be on a couple of free agents to be this year. Like, I think no matter what happens with Boston, Kyrie is committed and is going to be a Celtic for this year. I don't know if we can say that with Jimmy, and this story is an example.
Well, we'll see.
I agree with that, sir. I do believe that if Jimmy Butler does end up with the Lakers, it will be because of a trade, not because he's going to sign there as a free agent. But we'll find out.
Well, we'll see what happens with Jimmy when he becomes a free agent and then also around the trade deadline.
But anyway, that's basically it on that storyline. So peace.